Okay, so all of you have done the short assignment, or most of you at least, and there is a massive exegetical assignment which lies ahead, which is due on the 8th of May. So I thought I would give you this narrated PowerPoint just to give you a heads up, maybe brainstorm a few ideas, share with you my expectations of what it should be and where you can go and look for sources, etc., etc. So remember that this assignment, if I remember correctly, counts a lot. I think it's 40 or 50%. No, I should look in the study guide. But in any case, you can look in the study guide, but this exegetical assignment is important. There's no doubt about that. So here's the assignment, and by the way, I've looked, this big assignment only counts 35%. The two Hebrew tests together are 15%. The short assignment was 15%. This will be 35%, and the exam will also be 35%. So write an assignment of about 4,500 words about either 1 Samuel 8, 13, 15, or 17. The following is important. Choose one of the 4 chapters which you find the most fascinating. If you choose chapter 17, you will need to make a smaller selection because the chapter is simply too long. And then do exegesis of the text by discussing the most important commentaries. And obviously that will follow below. Please indicate which are the most exegetical issues in this text and try to describe which methods are used by the relevant commentaries. And then use at least 10 sources. Now these sources do not all have to be commentaries. They can be articles or they can be lemmas from a dictionary. Then a further question is, there may be a theme in this text which is related to the larger Deuteronomistic interest. Well, then you need to know what the Deuteronomist is, and a theme could be something like promise, it could be something like the king, and many of these texts have issues with the king. So you must be able to relate, on the one hand, your pericope with larger issues of methodology, what kind of methods are used, and you should be able to relate it to the larger Deuteronomistic history. And then the last bullet, briefly not more than 300 words, indicate how you would preach about this text. So just towards the end, give me a sermon outline, not more than a page, 300 words. But if you were to preach about this text, how would you do it? What would you accentuate? What would you maybe leave out? You might have discovered a fascinating historical issue in the chapter, and you might decide to preach something else. I don't think it's the most responsible way, but it's possible. Okay, and so the due date. Sorry for that yawn, but it's late in the evening. Okay, this is just assignment in Afrikaans for those of you who are Afrikaans. And the rest of this narrative PowerPoint in any case will be in English. I've given you this overview before, I think in your first year, but a very good source would be dictionaries. And dictionaries, for instance, if you're, in your case now, you have to do an assignment about a text from 1 Samuel. And there will be an essay or a lemma, we call that, in all of these dictionaries on the book of 1 Samuel. There might also be other lemmas in there on the character Samuel, or on David, or on Saul, or any of these essays would also give you a broad overview of these bigger issues. Now, just remember here, with these dictionaries, there's always a difference between the author who wrote the lemma and the editor who compiled the whole dictionary. And in text, you need to cite the author, the person who just wrote those few pages, and obviously in the bibliography, all the information needs to be there. But I will show you an example of that later. The Anchor Bible Dictionary is the oldest of all the dictionaries that I will show you. It's from the year 1992, when I was in my second year at university. But it's still very good. There are 6 volumes in it. You could also use it next year when you do a Pentateuch assignment, or in the second semester when you do something on wisdom or Psalms, I think. But there will be an essay in here on 1 Samuel. There will be essays in here on Saul or David, or maybe places, even if you're interested in places in the story of 1 Samuel, or like Shechem or Shiloh, or whatever. This will give you a condensed access to different kinds of information. Remember this difference between an editor and the author. In this case, the editor is Friedman. Okay, a much more recent volume. They were not all published in the first year or in the same year. So I think the last one was more or less 2007. This is called the New Interpreter's Dictionary of the Bible. There obviously is an old Interpreter's Dictionary of the Bible, but that's from the 60s. So that's probably a bit too old. This one is only 5 volumes. It's also very good. Those little assignments you did on not narrative criticism, post-colonial criticism, or feminist criticism, all of those one pages are from here. But in here would also be something on the book of 1 Samuel, or on Samuel or Saul, or places, or whatever. I think the editor here is Catherine Sarkenfeld. This is another kind of dictionary, and I actually have the wrong picture here. This one says Dictionary of the Old Testament Pentateuch. What you should be looking for is the Dictionary of the Old Testament, and then instead of Pentateuch it says historical books. I can't remember who the editors were, but you will see in this case the editors are Alexander and Baker. So that would also give you a broad overview of the book of 1 Samuel and many other things in the historical books. Remember, so historical books is a category used in the Protestant Bible, and it includes the Deuteronomistic history of the former prophets, but also books like Chronicles and Ruth. And what else? I think Chronicles, Ezra, Nehemiah probably. So, yeah, look at this one, find this one in the library, just look for the historical books. You also would find in here descriptions of the different methods. Now we are venturing more into commentaries. This is called the Oxford Bible Commentary by John Barton and John Muddiman. They were the editors, but inside there are each different book of the Bible, both Old and New Testament, has a different commentary written by a different author. And this one is very nice. Our library has the electronic source, so you log in through the library's website and you would be able to download the commentary on 1 Samuel. So this is more a commentary than it is a dictionary. This is also a commentary, although it's related to the New Interpreter's Dictionary. This is called the New Interpreter's Bible. It's 12 volumes, and they were also published in different years. So all of that needs to be in the bibliography. If you quote from, it will probably be volume 2 or 3, then in the bibliography you must have all that information there, and also the year in which it was published. I think the editor of these 12 volumes is a guy by the name of Keck. So look further to 1 Samuel. What is nice about this, there might be a general introductory chapter, I think, on narrative criticism, somewhere before we get to the historical books. And with each book, like 1 Samuel or whatever, you find a general introduction to the larger issues of that book. You might also find in here a discussion on the Deuteronomistic history, although I'm uncertain. Yeah, that's something else. If you're looking on information on the Deuteronomistic history, all of those previous dictionaries would obviously also have articles on that. So this slide is from your first year assignment, and there's actually one mistake on it, which I will get to in a moment. But here are the two lemmas from the New Interpreter's Dictionary on Hosea and Micah, that assignment you had to do in your first year. So remember now, here you have an editor. I lie, this is the author Birch. The editor is Catherine Sarkenfeld, and both of them are mentioned. and you have page numbers, because Birch only wrote these pages and Cheney wrote these, and you see the volume is here, and each different volume has a different year of publication. What is the mistake? The mistake is actually that this title should be in italics. The New Interpreter's Dictionary of the Bible, and you can put also volume 2 in italics. So how do you cite this in text? Well, yeah, that's the thing that many of you struggle with. And but the important thing is to remember, when you cite this in text, you must always add the page numbers. Not only when you quote, also when you paraphrase. And you can either cite, you can integrate the scholar at the beginning of a sentence. You can say Birch argues the following, blah, 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 blah. But then after Birch, you put in brackets 2007, colon, and the page numbers. Or you can just, at the end of a sentence, put in brackets. Then you put the author's surname in brackets, the year of publication, and the page numbers. But that citation is only applicable to that sentence. So you cannot just, in the last sentence of a paragraph, add that to a sentence and mean that it's applicable to the whole paragraph. It isn't. So it's usually better to introduce a scholar at the beginning of a paragraph. Say you are discussing this guy's commentary on 1 Samuel, and you discuss his or her opinion, and when you bring another scholar into the mix, then the reader presumes that you are moving to another source now. But okay, you should know this by now, but many of you struggled with that in the assignment with your citation system. I will remind you how to find an article in the library or on the library's website. Yeah, remember, commentaries and monographs and things like that they take a long time to produce, but articles are fresh, and academia or scholars produce a fresh stream of articles on different pericopes and different issues all the time. And yeah, it's a valuable source of information, and it's much more up to date sometimes than a commentary that was written in the 90s or in 2005 or whatever. So this is very important. Remember, you in total need to use 10 sources at least. You could obviously use more, but an article is an easy way, or easy ways of adding shorter sources to your bibliography. You go to the university's website, and there you can see our new principal. His inauguration, it took place on that first Saturday, first weekend of the holiday. And then you click here on the yellow arrow, because you're going for the library. So click on the library, and that will take you to the next slide. So you end up, after you've clicked on the university's website, you will end up here on the library's website, and there you have to click on search. Once you click on search, this drop-down menu will appear, and there you have to click on databases. Then this list will appear. It will start with the letter A, and we are looking for Atlas, so you'll have to page down on the A list, nearly at the bottom of the A list. That's where you will find Atlas. There you have it. It is, as you can see here, is the start of the B list. So it's at the bottom of the A list, and we should be lucky that we're looking for something in the A list, because I think if it would have been Z, it would have taken you quite a long time to page down there. In any case, you click there on Atlas database with Atlas serials. Then if you're outside the university, this UP portal login portfolio will appear. If you're already logged in, for instance, on a computer in the library, this should not happen, but in any case, if it happens, you just log in with your U number and your UP portal password. You will then end up on this website called EBSCOhost, which is the search engine, which then searches for all the databases. And as you can see there in green next to the yellow arrow, it says Atla Religion Database. I would like to add one or two more databases. So I click on choose databases. I'm not going to do it here, but then there will a short list will appear, and then I will usually add Old Testament abstracts, or you could also add New Testament abstracts, and then they will be linked to the search engine, and you will return to this website, and more than one database will be linked to the search engine. You will then be taken back to this site here, and now it's linked to more than one database. What I did here was I took this from the Pentateuch assignment for next year. I typed in Leviticus 10, and you will see then a long list of 65 actually articles appear on Leviticus 10. Now, obviously, your assignment will be on 1 Samuel something. So if you type in 1 Samuel 8, but it's important to put it in quotation marks. You see I've used quotation marks here. Then it will take you to articles on 1 Samuel 8, and you'll find a similar list. And if this PDF thingy is here at the bottom, then it means you don't have to go to the library. It's there. You just click on it and voila, there it is. You can read it and use it. If you click on these individual items, you will also be taken to a, usually, not always, but usually a short description of what that article is about. So it's a good way of filtering. Just read those short descriptions before you actually download the article. I can remember as a student, we always had to do this physically. We had to go look for the paper journal and then photocopy it, and the photocopying part was always the easy part. The difficult part is obviously to read all of that stuff. But it's okay. You would hopefully easily find an article or many articles on whichever text from 1 Samuel you chose. This is then how articles would appear in your bibliography. Remember, with Harvards, it's always important that the surname should be first. Now you should immediately spot a mistake in this brief bibliography. It should be alphabetical. Crouch should be first, not Thompson. Then it is followed by the date, and then usually you put a full stop there, but if you don't, you should never. And then you have the name of the article. This is one article in Exodus 3 and 6, and in this case, only the name of the journal is in italics. Journal for the Study of the Old Testament, Vetus Testamentum, and then afterwards you always have these volumes. Well, actually, this is year, and sometimes you have. So if I go to Journal for the Study of the Old Testament, this is the 68th year in which they've published this journal. And usually there are 3 or 4 volumes per year, and that is clear here with Vetus Testamentum. That's how you have this backslash and 4. This 4 is the 4th volume in the year. Like Old Testament Essays, the South African Journal, has 3 volumes. Now sometimes you put this 4 in brackets, sometimes you use it like this. You can do whatever you like, but if you do it like this once, or you use brackets, then you must just be consistent. Remember, that is the golden rule, consistency. So this is what an article would look like in the bibliography. Remember, this source, an article, and a lemma in a dictionary, or like a chapter in a book with an editor, like the example of Barton was, although Barton was confusing, but Wilson was also like that. Those of you who did social scientific criticism. They are also cited in the bibliography like a lemma in a dictionary. You have an author and an editor. And it's only in the cases of articles like these and those dictionaries or those chapters by different authors in a book with an editor, it's only in them that you add page numbers in the bibliography. Because obviously Kraut only wrote those pages, and Thompson only wrote those pages, and other scholars wrote the other pages in this journal. But with a monograph, with a commentary or a book like that, you don't add page numbers in the bibliography. On this site on ClickUp where I gave you the assignment, you will see there's a long list of links to commentaries and links to other monographs, and which you should follow and go look for those books. This is how you cite a commentary. It's like a monograph. These are Pentateuch commentaries, Brigham, Deuteronomy. That's in italics. It was published in Nashville by Abingdon Press. And then with the commentaries, you often in brackets put the series in which the commentary is. Like Milgrom is in Continental series, Dozeman is in Eerdmans Critical Commentary series, and then Deuteronomy is in the Abingdon Old Testament Commentary series. So it's not a must, but it should actually be there. But remember now, with this kind of book, commentary, or a normal monograph, like your first year textbook Carr or Carr and Conway, you would not add page numbers in the bibliography, because Dozeman wrote the whole commentary and Milgrom wrote the whole commentary. So yeah, I hope all of this is clear to you. So my face appears again. Good luck with this assignment. Yeah, it's due on the 8th of May. I think it's a Wednesday. Remember, I deduct 5% for every working day that the assignment is late, and after a week I don't mark it anymore. You don't have to only do 1 Samuel 8, 13, 15, or 17. You can also go for other texts in 1 Samuel, but just talk to me in class before you do that, so that we can just see whether it's really a viable project. Yeah, and then you need to use 10 good sources. If you want to get a distinction, you obviously need to use more. And this should be a good mix of commentaries, monographs, dictionaries, and articles. Articles are the easy ones usually to find. So, okay, good luck. I hope you find a fascinating text. I hope it goes well. Remember, this assignment counts as much as the exam. It's 35% of your final mark.